Welcome, guys. I want to talk with you today about a wonderful poetry lesson that is extremely easy to incorporate and fun to adapt. It can go for any text that you're doing, it can be from a poem itself, it can be from nonfiction to fiction. It's really up to what you're currently working in. So that's why I love this so much. But I'm going to show you what I did just to kind of give you the framework and then you can adapt it. So it's called mentor text poetry. That means that you're finding a sample work or you're finding a current selection and then you're going to use it as a mentor text. That's your major text. Right now I'm doing Fahrenheit 451. And so what I did is I was looking at particular standards. I did look at standard 9.6, which is like the perspective or the point of view. But there's something else that I failed to recognize what I was doing until afterwards, which is really cool. When teachers are in reflective practice, they can find out that, oh, wow, this really related to something else. That's going on here. So I realized that when I was looking at the 7 different themes that are in Fahrenheit yesterday, and I unintentionally picked different choices of lines that actually would go along and partner with a theme. So if I would have to do this lesson again, not only would I have had the student create the poem, but then try to see if they could match the line that's actually from the book with one of the 7 themes that we discussed in Fahrenheit. So as you can see, I put the page numbers down and I gave them choices. And so this is the lines that they would have to start their poetry with. Oh, and why not? Would be the last line. Choice 2 was the rules. That's kind of like the conformity type theme. Choice 3, sometimes I'm ancient, I'm afraid of. That's the individuality. Okay, page 32, and then Clarice was gone. That can go back to technology and advancement of society. And then page 3, of course, I have to do the first line of Fahrenheit. It was a pleasure to burn. And what I loved about this one is one of the students actually chose this one and he used that and turned it into the way that youth are dependent upon social media. And we would have never connected that with what he was doing until we did an author type reflective practice where the students did an analysis of each other's poetry and we did a brainstorm at each poem. I'll talk about that next, but it was very interesting. Choice 5. This one was really popular. I had more students choose this one than any other. And then choice 6, of course, a line of your choice. Always have that open. So that way, if there is something that stood out, I had one student and only one student, and she chose a seven-word sentence, which I guess in her mind was absolutely, oh, that's perfect for a haiku. And so that's exactly what she did. It was amazing. So then I gave a next steps. So what they had to do is they had to create a free account on Canva. They had to go to Instagram post. And I'm going to tell you why Instagram post is important. You see how I'm doing an Instagram post right now for ways that we can support authors? This automatically fits in the frame, and I had them have an authentic experience. If they wanted to post on their Instagram accounts, then they would already have an easy share because most of the students do have personal Instagrams. I did not make it a requirement, but a lot of them did post on their Instagram. And then I had them copy and paste their poem into the text box. They had to find symbolism, and then they had to save it. Now, this is the part where when you come over here to hit download, I had them save it as a JPEG because that way it could be popped right into their Instagram. Then they sent it to me. And I asked them to send it to me through email as an email attachment. And I was pulling them up easily through my email. I just find that to be, instead of dropping it into Google Classroom, sometimes I'm just like, guys, email it to me. And that gives them that practice of emailing a teacher. Hopefully that'll break down those walls of communication between them and their future teachers. Well, they'll be quick to be able to email. But as you can see, they can do shares. So after they created their poetry, they went on, I'm going to get out of this one, and they pulled it up on their computers. And so I'm going to give you an example of what I did. So it would have the poem in the middle, and then the background goes for, whatever it is, the symbol. And so we pulled them up on our computer, and the students did a digital gallery walk. So they went around to each poetry piece and they read them. And I will tell you that you don't have to make this fancy. I did not have the gallery go brainstorming sheet where they had to write down particular things. I could have had them leave sticky notes around the computer screens. That would have made sense. But because it was a spur of the moment idea for me to actually do the gallery walk at the end, I didn't have that planned. So I would tell you, doing a sticky note to where each kid carries around a stack of stickies, they leave a positive comment or a question that they might have. You could give them like a key, an annotation key, and then they could leave those around the monitors. And then that person who has that station, they go back to their computer and then they have all of those notes they can take with them. So I would say that would be really cool to do. And then we could shuffle through those and we could make a reflective poster out of those. And they could even do that digitally if you wanted to, if you did it with some of those digital apps right now where you could do Post-it apps. They could use their phone as they're going around or an iPad as they're going around. But I didn't take it to the next level. We had like 5 minutes left of class, and I was like, okay, we're doing a quick gallery walk. Everybody up, everybody rotate. Everybody up, everybody rotate. And so that was what my last fill-in was. So what I did the next day, I pulled particular students, to start with, the model one, the one that made me cry, and I pulled it up, and I made sure that as soon as they walked in, that's what they saw on the screen. And then we talked about it, and we talked about perspective, because what I take away from that is based on what luggage I'm carrying in with me into that poetry airport. And so we talked about that. We broke that down. Why would that have made me cry? And then the students had to give their own opinions about why would that have been an emotional trigger for me. And then we read the poem. And afterwards, we discussed it from her point of view. Was that what you were going with? Was this about your father's death and going through that emotion? Or was that just my luggage from, dealing with my parents' death? And so we had those discussions. Well, then everybody wanted to do it. And at first, I didn't have that planned. I was just going to use hers as the model and move on. Well, then every student wanted to do the literary analysis. They wanted to do the poetry analysis. They wanted us to put it up, brainstorm, talk about it, share about what we liked, talk about what it made us think about, talk about the symbolism of their pictures. What could their pictures mean? How was it an extension? We were crafting all kinds of silly backstories based on pictures. And then the poet would have an opportunity to share their perspective. And it was very fascinating what we were thinking and where the students were coming from. And not often did it match. And I helped bridge a lot of that too. When I would find a gap, we would discuss it. This was an excellent lesson. And it was very affirming, and the students felt accomplished. They want to do the lesson again. And so I will tell you, this is going to be in my lesson plans every year. And I'm going to do it better the next time, because I am going to plan the gallery walk with the sticky notes. I'm not going to do a capture sheet. I'm going to do the stickies. That way that people will be able to carry out their affirming notes that they would possibly keep and put in their treasure boxes. Because yes, I have high school students that do have memento boxes. I have a student who now is a writer from this experience. And so that just tells you the power of some of those assignments that you might think, okay, this is a really cool idea that I learned at a workshop. And you might say, how am I going to, implement this? I don't have the time, or it's going to take. These are powerful lessons. And using the mentor text, I'm going to tell you what I think it did. I think it took away the intimidation of a blank page when it's just, okay, write a poem. They actually had a line to begin with, and their poetry was so creative and so inspiring. Like, I loved it so much, and their personalities really were sparked through this poetry. It was great, y'all. I'm telling you, you need to try this. So this is excellent for homeschool families, for groups, for creative writing classes, for English classes. You can do this in any subject, any discipline. You could do this in a social studies text that you're doing. You could do this about science. There's so many things that you can do and adapt this with the mentor text. So don't limit it just thinking it's for an English classroom. Something else authors can do too, if you're holding an event, you can take lines from your book and have a contest. And so prior to the contest, you could have students enter in mentor text line poetry for you or people that are coming to your event. And then you could surprise them by posting up their work and using it in your slideshow. That would be so wonderful, and it would be a great way to connect with your audience. So think about that too, using your own text as mentor text, and hold a competition. All right, guys, I hope this has been very helpful for you. I went to a teacher today, and I coached them, and I shared this lesson activity with them and sent them the framework so they would be able to adapt it. But you can see how easy it is. All you do is go in and find your pages, copy in there, and you're good to go. So good luck with it, and I'd love to hear your ideas about it and how you can adapt this. And go ahead and send me a comment or an email at jenlowrywrites@gmail.com. If you have some additional needs with poetry and you say, help me with ideas, then I can do some more lessons, because National Poetry Month is April, and I've been doing a lot of poetry. Well, I've been teaching poetry for 20 years. So I've got a lot of different tricks up my sleeve, and I can't believe it took me this long to find this one, but I will definitely be using this one forever. All right, guys, you have a blessed one.